Hello, and welcome back to Hope is Kindled. Today's episode is about betrayal, justice, transformation, and maybe even joy. We're diving into one of the most sweeping, satisfying, and soulful adventures ever written, The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. This book has been a companion of mine for years. I come back to it when I need courage, when I need to remember that pain can be endured, that injustice can be survived, that hope, deep, defiant, patient hope, can carry you through anything, making this one of the most significant works we will examine on this podcast. There's one line in particular that I've returned to again and again. It's Dumas at his most profound, and it holds a kind of
Until the day when God shall deign to reveal the future to man, all human wisdom is summed up in these two words, wait and hope.
This idea that we are not powerless just because we do not yet understand has helped keep the fires of inspiration alive in me. That quote alone could carry this episode. But there's so much more. Today we'll talk about Edmond Dantès, a sailor turned prisoner turned legend. We'll explore how Alexandre Dumas created this story out of real historical records and his own brilliant imagination. We'll trace the psychological journey from despair to transcendence. And yes, there will be a Muppet reference. I've always dreamed of a sequel to The Great Muppet Caper that opens on Chateau d'If, with none other than Nikki Holiday singing a mournful, operatic rendition of Happiness Miss Piggy, echoing through the halls of that ancient, quote, prison. Thunder crashes outside. Lightning flashes. Inside a gloomy stone cell, Rizzo the rat, dressed in tattered rags and a piratey feathered hat, paces dramatically. As he gnaws on a chunk of moldy cheese from a brick in the wall and takes a bite, from behind a loose stone, a very dusty, bearded Swedish chef pops his head out. Swedish chef as Abbé Faria. The Muppets would probably handle the Count of Monte Cristo, with flair, fur, and plenty of fromage. But beneath the chaos lies the beating heart of Dante's journey, one of betrayal, perseverance, transformation, and, yes, hope. Because even a rat in a prison can rise to greatness if he has a spoon, a map, and a dream. So, let's begin. This novel has comforted and inspired generations. Nelson Mandela reportedly read The Count of Monte Cristo while imprisoned on Robben Island, relating deeply to Dantès' long solitude and eventual triumph. The story has been referenced by everyone from Barack Obama to Stephen King, with King even describing it as the greatest revenge story ever told. And still, Dumas gives us more than vengeance. He gives us transcendence. The Count realizes that revenge cannot restore what was lost. As he slowly relinquishes his bitterness, we see echoes of Jean Valjean from Les Miserables, another unjustly imprisoned man whose redemption reshapes his world. As we begin, we must first take a moment to talk about the man behind the masterpiece. Alexandre Dumas was a literary force of nature. Born in 1802, the grandson of a Haitian enslaved woman and the son of a general in Napoleon's army, Dumas defied the odds of his time. He grew up in poverty, faced prejudice because of his mixed-race heritage, yet rose to become one of the most celebrated and prolific writers in the world. His father, Thomas Alexandre Dumas, was a legend in his own right, a black general who fought during the French Revolution. These heroic tales shaped Dumas' imagination and bled into every part of his storytelling. What's astonishing is not just Dumas' imagination, but his output. He wrote hundreds of books, plays, and essays. His stories gave people adventure, justice, laughter, and hope. The Count of Monte Cristo, published in 1844, was inspired by a true story of a man falsely imprisoned who returned to take revenge. But Dumas gave it emotional and philosophical depth, transforming it into an odyssey of the soul. The Count of Monte Cristo is Alexandre Dumas' epic tale of betrayal, endurance, and transformation. At its heart is Edmond Dantès, a kind and promising young sailor who is wrongfully imprisoned due to the jealousy and ambition of others. His crime? Being successful, loved, and in the way. His imprisonment in the Chateau d'If is the novel's crucible, what destroys his innocence but forges his resolve. In the darkness of his cell, Dantès meets the wise Abbé Faria, who becomes his mentor bestows him with an education, and gives him the secret to a hidden treasure on the Isle of Monte Cristo. One of the novel's most quoted lines, "I am not proud, but I am happy," quote. And happiness blinds, I think, more than pride, captures Dantès' tragic naivety before his downfall. Like Pip in Great Expectations, or even Jay Gatsby, he is blinded by the illusion that good things come to good people. His disillusionment is the beginning of his transformation. Danz's escape is more than physical. He is reborn. He returns to the world not as the hopeful sailor, but as the mysterious, calculating Count of Monte Cristo. Now wealthy beyond measure, he enacts a patient, poetic vengeance upon those who wronged him, Danglars, Fernand, and Villefort, each according to their crimes. Like Hamlet, like Ahab, like Batman even, Dantès becomes the embodiment of justice, at first cold, then tempered by grace. In this way, Dumas joins Dostoevsky and Hugo in writing revenge as a question, not an answer. Dumas explores deep philosophical questions about justice, mercy, and the nature of identity. And, as we mentioned earlier, Dantès so eloquently remarks,
"Until the day when God shall deign to reveal the future to man, all human wisdom is summed up in these two words, wait and hope."
And we could run an entire episode on that quote alone. If the title of our podcast did not originate with Lord of the Rings, I would say that it really started when I first met Edmond Dantès. Dantès' story is ultimately not just about revenge, but about transcendence. He must learn that vengeance cannot heal all wounds. His love for Mercedes cannot be reclaimed, his youth cannot be restored, but his soul can be redeemed. And that is why The Count of Monte Cristo remains a story of hope. And let's not forget politics. This is a novel rooted in post-Napoleonic France. Power, betrayal, prisons built on whispers all serve as commentary on a society more interested in preserving appearances than pursuing justice. One of my favorite quotes speaks to that very duplicity in stating,
"The difference between treason and patriotism is only a matter of dates. Learning does not make one learned. There are those who have knowledge and those who have understanding. The first requires memory and the second philosophy."
On Monte Cristo, loyalties shift like tides in post-Napoleonic France. What is hailed as patriotism one year is condemned as treason the next. Dantès is imprisoned not for any crime of his own, but because of others' ambitions tied to the volatile politics of the time. Dumas uses this line to underscore the hypocrisy of power structures and to reveal how justice is often manipulated by those in control. It's a reminder that righteousness is not always defined by law or nation, but by conscience. Edmond Dantès begins as a young man full of promise and love. Then, in a flash of betrayal, he is imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. He loses his fiancée, his future, and his name. But instead of giving in to despair, Dantès changes. He learns, he grows, he becomes someone stronger. Not just a man with knowledge, but with insight. As Dumas writes, this quote, which my son Thomas rightly pointed out, resonates deeply with the themes we explored in our episode on Richard Feynman. Feynman believed in learning as discovery, as curiosity in motion. And so does Dumas. Dante's path mirrors that principle. His transformation isn't just mental, it's spiritual. In the shadows of the Château d'If, the Abbé Faria becomes more than a teacher. He is a lighthouse in the darkness, guiding Dantès through the storm. He offers instruction in science, philosophy, and languages, yes, but more than that, he gives Dantès the tools to reclaim and reshape his identity. Yet as Dantès ascends from the depths, he does not rise unscathed. He emerges from prison not simply as a man, but as a force-san embodiment of cold, calculated justice. With vast wealth and an almost mythic aura, the Count of Monte Cristo begins to unspool a web of vengeance across those who destroyed him. But this pursuit, while justifiable, becomes consuming. And it is here that the novel begins to ask its deeper questions. Vengeance, Dumas suggests, can right a wrong, but it cannot restore the soul. Only forgiveness can do that. And so begins the second transformation of Dantès, from avenger to redeemer. This is the novel's true ascent from a thrilling tale of retribution to a meditation on grace. Though Dantès at times feels almost godlike in his control and foresight, even he must confront the limits of power and perception. In the end, he learns the same truth Gandalf once told Frodo in The Lord of the Rings, that even the very wise cannot see all ends. That humility is the threshold of wisdom. It's beautifully captured in one of the most powerful passages in the novel.
Life is a storm, my young friend. You will bask in the sunlight one moment, be shattered on the rocks the next. What makes you a man is what you do when that storm comes. You must look into that storm and shout as you did in Rome. Do your worst, for I will do mine. Then the fates will know you as we know you.
In those words, we hear echoes of the brothers Karamazov, where faith and suffering coexist. Of the Odyssey, where the hero endures countless storms to return home. Of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where rebellion in the face of dehumanization becomes a spiritual act. Again and again, in our journey through these stories, we find the same truth. It is not power that redeems us, it is what we choose to do with it. Dantès is not saved by his intellect or wealth. He is saved by letting go, by choosing mercy over wrath, by choosing love again. That is what this novel is really about. Not mere survival, but integrity. Not domination, but transformation. Not victory, but identity. As I spent time working on this podcast, my son Lucas played a song called Save Me by Jelly Roll, and it hit me in just the same way. That song is raw. It's full of regret and yearning, but also a kind of inner fight. Just like Dantès, it's about wrestling with the darkness and trying to become someone better. Dantès' prison cell and Jelly Roll's recording studio feel connected. Both are places where men confront themselves, and both come out the other side scarred, wiser, and still holding on. In Great Expectations, Pip learns humility. In The Brothers Karamazov, we saw faith questioned and love tested. In the Odyssey, Odysseus returns from war to reclaim his home. And now, in Dantès, we meet a man who loses everything, then finds himself. This story is not about finding peace at the top of a mountain. It's about clawing your way out of the dark and still choosing light. It reminds us that we are more than what happens to us, that we can become new even after the world tries to bury us. To wrap up our journey through the Count of Monte Cristo, I wanted to say that I believe the 12th Doctor, fierce, cerebral, and morally unflinching, would relish this work. To him, it would be more than just a swashbuckling adventure or a grand tale of revenge. It would be a meditation on justice, identity, and the painful, often necessary journey of becoming something new. You can almost picture it, the soft hum of the TARDIS engines, the flickering golden glow of the library, and the doctor perched in a worn leather armchair, reading aloud to Clara, or perhaps Bill. He'd pause often, of course, raise an eyebrow, scoff, deliver one of his patented gruff interjections.
Edmond Dantès, a man forged in fire, brilliant, relentless, and occasionally far too clever for his own good.
Like Dantès, the doctor has known betrayal. He has walked through darkness, shaped by loss and driven by a complicated sense of justice. And like Dan's, he has had to decide, is vengeance enough? Or must we evolve beyond it? And of course, under a golden spotlight, Rizzo the Rat, draped in a velvet cape and calling himself the Count of Monte Cristo, shares 3 final lessons learned in prison and on a yacht made of camembert. Lesson 1, not everyone's your friend, as Gonzo crashes through the ceiling in full Dangler's mode yelling surprise betrayal party. Lesson 2 reminds us that education is power, just as the Swedish chef walks by with a pry. What a dangerously unstable chemistry book. For lesson 3, Kermit gently counters Rizzo's lust for revenge with the quiet power of forgiveness. And finally, Rizzo takes his final bow and a reminder. Whether you're stuck in a prison or stuck in traffic, wait and hope. And bring a snack. To my sons, who remind me every day what it means to begin again with wonder. Your insight continues to guide this project. To Alexandre Dumas, whose voice thunders across centuries with the promise that stories, great stories, can save us. To the Muppets, for inspiring joy even in the darkest prisons of our imagination, my eternal love and appreciation. Next episode, we'll hop on the bus, literally, with Ken Kesey and the Merry Pranksters, and perhaps the Electric Mayhem too, in the Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. We'll explore freedom, counterculture, madness, and the search for a new kind of truth. Until then, wait and hope. Good journey.